Now on the APEC VIP hotline, cutting-edge training for the serious athlete, apecgo.com. Joining us now, the managing editor of TexasFootball.com and Dave Campbell's Texas Football, Travis Stewart. How you doing, Travis?
I'm enjoying this delightedly unexpected fall weather.
Can you believe this?
This is great.
This doesn't happen till the 9th week of the season.
We're getting it earlier now. It started last week for Fox Football Friday. We were down in the valley. We thought it was going to be a scorcher. It was beautiful, and we woke up Saturday morning, and it's been wonderful ever since. Something broke up there, but whatever it is, let's keep it broken.
I'm with you, buddy. I'm all there. In the TexasFootball.com website today, several things to talk about. First of all, you have an article in here about talking about trying to figure out which high school quarterbacks are going to transfer into good college quarterbacks and then on to good pro quarterbacks. And I was curious, your opinion of some of the quarterbacks in East Texas, some of the guys you think might be the best quarterbacks in East Texas right now.
You know, we've talked a lot about Greg Ward, and I think in some ways he's a great example of a phenomena that Jake Shaw, the writer of the story in question, didn't really get into, but which is okay. The topic he broached instead was very noteworthy. But there's a fine difference between an elite high school quarterback and an elite quarterback recruit. There's a big difference. And right now, Greg Ward is absolutely an elite high school quarterback. You can't argue that. I think what recruiters argue is he an elite quarterback recruit? And I think that's obviously worthy of having an opinion one way or the other. I think he's a pretty darn good recruit under center too, but I think a lot of recruiters don't agree. But if you look out to the broader East Texas area in general, I mean, there's a lot of guys out there right now, but I don't feel like there's one or two guys that are really, head and shoulders above everyone else. I mean, Vivian Scaraway for Longview was pretty much one of the top two or three guys, and now his torn ACL, he'll be out for the season, kind of leaves a void out there outside of Greg Ward. Now, Mount Pleasant's got a pretty good one. James is a very talented quarterback. I don't know if Mount Pleasant counts as East Texas for y'all.
Absolutely.
Northeast Texas.
No, it does, great. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, he has been a revelation out there, and for Mount Pleasant fans know, I mean, it's been such a struggle for them as of late, really over the past, Bryan, maybe over the past 10 or 11 years. And they're 3-0, and they have just pounded people, including a runaway victory over Terrell last week. I mean, they had more than 70 points of offense, I think, and their quarterback's been a big part of that. If he keeps doing stuff like that, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people talking about him, obviously, as a high school player, and at some point that starts to transcend into he's an elite recruit as well.
And one of the guys that was in your Gridiron Legends poll last week, the kid from Grace Community School, Blake White, is having a heck of a year right now, too.
Not a huge surprise, but I think it is for a lot of fans. And I don't know if you and I have broached this topic yet, but private schools are getting better and better.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that Grace is up at the level of those top two or three private schools that went and hammered through East Texas a couple weeks ago.
No, they're not Plano Prestonwood, but they're pretty good.
They're pretty good, I agree. And the quarterback White has been pretty special as well. So it's always tough. It's even tougher, I think, for private school quarterbacks and stuff to get recognized because recruiters throw around the level of competition argument in there, but which I think is part of the reason why you're seeing more and more private schools play public schools early on to say, hey, look, I don't care if it's Gilmer, and I don't care if it's, some other small school out in East Texas in the private school ranks. We can beat people, we have to play them.
Yeah. Now, and one other kid that we've got to talk about, and you mentioned him in one of the articles in TexasFootball.com, is the kid that we see every week because we do White House football. Patrick Mahomes is putting up some staggering numbers right now. He's only a junior, and this is his first experience as a starting quarterback because Hunter Taylor took every snap last year, and yet he plays like a veteran right now.
Yeah, and I think what was most telling after their win over Sulphur Springs this past week was when interviewed by one of the East Texas media outlets. I can't remember which one it is. I'm killing myself, so I can't remember. But he said, I actually like throwing the ball way more than I like running it. I think it's way more fun for me to throw the football. Well, if you can find a kid that can run and is good at running the football, but actually enjoys throwing it a lot more, that's a pretty good kid to have in your back pocket. And we know at White House, the given out there that he's going to put up numbers. It would be the low water mark for a White House quarterback under Coach Randy McFarland is like 3,200 yards passing. So, there's every indication Mahomes would be in that region, if not scratching the underbelly of 4,000. Then you're going to add some rushing yards to that. If they even go on a 2, 3, 4 week playoff run, his numbers are going to be ludicrous if he stays healthy and keeps playing at this level.
And again, he's just a junior, and the biggest decision that kid's going to have to make is baseball or football, because he's the son of Pat Mahomes, who was a longtime Major League pitcher, and he's quite a pitcher himself. So that may be the biggest decision he's got to make after high school, is deciding whether he wants to stick with college football or continue on the path of playing Major League Baseball.
I am hideously biased in this debate, so I will not lend him advice one way or the other, because I will always tell kids to play football, because I'm a totally selfish journalist. But
thus
you can make
Texas
a lot of good money
football.
playing baseball.
Yeah, thus Texas football. That's why they call it that. I like that. No, I'm with you. I love the football part of it too. Now, college football. Mac Engel and I were talking about this the other day, and he asked me the question: who's the best college football team in Texas right now? What's your opinion?
You know, we started this little chain a couple years ago on TexasFootball.com called the Power Poll, where we ranked, it used to be 10, now obviously it's 12, the top 12 FBS teams in Texas. We started doing this, 3-4 years ago, and now everyone does it. All the major papers do their own little version of it now. They all came up with a fun name for it. But this is a topic we've always been fascinated by, because we're one of the only outlets out there that covers all 12 in-state Division I schools. So, when we started the season this year, it was a tough run. I think, realistically, there was only 2, maybe 3 options up at the top. You had TCU, Texas, maybe A&M. Tech and Baylor somewhere in the mix as well, but Baylor presented a huge unknown about Robert Griffin, and Tech was coming off a 5-7 season. So you're really looking at those 3 programs. After the first week, when TCU mauled Grambling, I think our staff was more or less leaning towards TCU, even though their only game had been Grambling. We understood that. We were still more or less leaning towards them because we thought they were the best team in the state in the preseason, so we hadn't seen a reason to change that opinion yet. After this past week, when TCU kind of played with its food against Kansas and Texas, eviscerated Ole Miss, especially offensively, we flip-flopped that. We went with the Longhorns at number 1, TCU at 2, and then A&M, in my mind, I think is 3. They played a really good Florida team and lost. I can't begrudge them that. But I could definitely see arguments for TCU at 1, because I think they played a lackluster game at Kansas, but I can't remember a season where a Gary Patterson team played more than one lackluster game a year. His intensity does not allow for that. And honestly, Texas hasn't necessarily put that great a competition either. They went on the road and beat an SEC team, which is very notable. But the 3 teams they've played are all on the bottom, what would that be, bottom 30 in total defense in the entire country. So, we're still waiting for the team that can bell up and play some defense. And again, TCU hasn't seen that either. So, unknown for both of those. Yeah,
and to be honest with you, the Texas A&M loss to Florida looks better all the time after what I saw Florida do against Tennessee the other night. They manhandled a good Tennessee team in Knoxville.
Hey, people were quick to throw some stones at us when we picked Florida second in the East ahead of South Carolina. I always thought that Florida was pretty good. And when you look at what they do, let's break down Florida. They're really good defensively, great at linebacker, and they're middling to okay and occasionally very good on offense. Why is that in any way noteworthy in the SEC? That's the exact same thing that's made LSU a grand winner. Up until about 2 years ago when Alabama really took off, that's pretty much what they were too. So I guess I just never saw anything in Florida that made me think they would not have a stellar season. So when A&M lost to Florida the way they did, I thought, man, it sucks. They're obviously disappointed, but there's a lot of things that could have happened to you that were worse. I think that was a great indication of good days ahead.
Absolutely. A couple of things of note. Gladewater off to a 3-0 start. It's been a long time since you talked about Mount Pleasant. Gladewater has been a long time since they've been a power in Texas.
Well, kind of like Mount Pleasant has gotten great quarterback play. They've been throwing the ball a ton. Gladewater has kind of gone throwback a little bit. They're running the ball a bunch. And you've got 2 kids out there, Derek Daniels, Tyler Price, who both have, fantastic numbers through 3 games. Daniels has got more than almost 500 rushing yards now, and Price has almost 400. So it's almost 900 yards between 2 kids in just the first 3 games. At that rate, those guys are going to have great numbers, and that team's going to have a great season. And also look at the teams they've beaten. Pretty solid. They've gone through some of the heavy hitters out to their respective size. They've gone through some of the heavy hitters out there in East Texas this year. And, so much was made about the District of Doom and the Chapel Hills and the Gilmers and the Hendersons and the Kilgores and all that. Shucks, and Gladewater, Bullard even. Those are the schools that have looked really sharp so far this year.
Absolutely. And the final thing, a renewal of a tremendous East Texas rivalry. It's just sad that it's not still a district game, and that's Longview against Lufkin this week.
Oh, it's going to be beautiful. We're actually taking the Fox Football Friday set out there, so we'll be broadcasting live from the set of the game from 7 to 11 p.m. on Fox Sports Southwest, M+, and Houston, and all the other affiliated Fox networks. I lose track of them. We're not actually broadcasting the game. It's just our high school variety show, still worth watching. I think that there's one thing I'm really interested in. It's that everyone's been asking me about this game. It's just I feel like both teams are still, to a certain extent, largely unknowns. I mean, Longview without Bivens Caraway, I mean, has to turn to their running back, Torrey White, quite a bit now. But, I mean, and we know the defense is pretty solid. But again, I mean, the season opening loss to Capel threw some red flags out there. Not really sure what the rest of that roster looks like. And you look at Lufkin, I mean, they came into the season without a big star anyway. They had a good defensive end in DeMontre Lewis, a good wide receiver in DeBryce Taylor. And they've both been solid to good so far, but not what I would call, rewriting the record books or at statewide notoriety level. So whoever comes out and plays well, I'll be interested in, A, if there's a star player behind a winning effort, and B, which defense steps up to the plate. I'm not going to say whoever wins this one's a surefire playoff power, the other one's not, but I think will be a clear indication of who's got a little more done early in the season, who's a little more ready to hit district play.
Okay, what's coming up with TexasFootball.com?
Podcast later this week. That's kind of the brainchild of Associate Editor Greg Tepper, he's one of those young cats who loves the audio visual medium. I guess me and Jake Shaw, we're still the old guard who like the written word, but he likes to get out there and get involved. We've also got the Player of the Week voting going on, which has been a huge success so far this year. We can't get people to stop voting at this
That's
point.
Great.
So if you've got East Texas kids on the Player of the Week poll, come out and vote. We're trying to put together what would be a good prize package for kids who win it, because they're certainly deserving.
No question about it. Hey, Travis, again, always fun talking to you. You're like an encyclopedia, dude. You amaze me.
Well, that's because I got a bunch of encyclopedias in front of me that I'm reading out of as we talk. I just read really fast.
I like that. Very good. Hey, buddy, thanks very much. Again, everybody check out TexasFootball.com, and we appreciate Travis Stewart coming on. Thank you, sir.
Same time next week.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later on. Travis Stewart, Bryan Houston Sports Radio Live on 99.3 Talk FM. Hey, Travis.